allowing that breath to pull you to center. I allow it to pull me to center. And at the center of me is all there is. That is where source upwells. Because it's everywhere all the time, at the center of me, I recognize it. That source that is within each of us. That source which is all there is, that all there is all wisdom, all love, all joy, all abundance, all forgiveness, all grace. Fill in the blank. All. Nothing left outside. There is no outside of all. And because I know I am of this, I have access to all of it. We each do. So I choose, moment by moment, to remove the filters that I perceive between me and that allness. I affirm, moment by moment, that it is mine because I am of that. It is each of ours because we are of that. Today, that flows, that wisdom, that grace, that all that flows out into the world through the words and feelings and hearts of each of us, through the teaching of Reverend David, through the gift of music from our devoted and talented musicians and singers. All of this is of spirit, unlimited, flowing easily, gracefully. For this I say thank you. For this I say thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you.
Yes.
For this I say yes. I invite all hearts to say yes to this overflowing, to this more, to this abundance that is ours when we say yes. I say open the arms and welcome in more wisdom, grace, love, forgiveness, fill in the blank. In this spirit of welcome and thanks, I let these words move into the law, which through some miracle of non-science brings them to reality. And I say, and so it is.
So it is. So this week we're on the second of our 3-week pledge drive conversation, and our theme this year is filling up and spilling over, because I believe very much in that if a community is going to ask you to support it, and by the way, all communities need support, yes? Yes. Okay, it's just a process. You know, dances of universal peace. You know, you need some money, you need somebody to be sending emails out, you need somebody to organize the stuff. There's a business aspect to it, because we all live in these things called bodies in this place called a planet, and so there's an aspect of it, and we love to just play in the high spiritual realm. But we're also called to live here in form, you've noticed. If you're not sure, just kind of slap yourself or ask your neighbor to slap you, just to make sure that you're aware that we're in form. And so we do this business thing so we can do the spiritual thing and continue to do the spiritual thing. And I believe very much in when I ask people to support a community, I support them in filling up and spilling over, giving out of their fullness rather than out of, oh, please give more, even though you can't. We don't say give till it hurts. We say give till it feels good. And receive also till it feels good. So breathe that in. Rumi says, your task is not to seek for love, but merely to seek and find all the barriers within yourself that you have built against it. By the way, I have a note here because I forgot to do this. Hello to the online community. Thank you so much for being with us. Sorry, I forgot to acknowledge that at the start. And Buffy did too. So it's Buffy's fault, it's not me. Yeah. Our task is not to seek for, but to see what's already there, present, and how am I blocking that? So our talk today is the tyranny of obligation. Obligation are the old beliefs, systems that have held us in place, that have blocked our flow. Anybody besides me have anything going on like that? Yes. Okay. So the truth is, we're all free, we're all whole, we all live as infinite abundance made manifest. That's the capital T truth of us. And we know this at our deep soul level. But we have been conditioned, domesticated, to quote Don Miguel Ruiz, into believing that we are not, that we are less than whole. But this is BS. Belief system. Yet since we were taught this as young children, very young children often, by people that we loved and respected, or people that we feared, who were themselves taught by people that they loved or feared, and have passed all that stuff on, we feel the obligation to continue to live in that same way. Some of us are in a class that's being live streamed from CSL Seattle by Kathy Ann, where it's called Money Matters. And a few weeks ago, there was a person who said that, my beliefs, my stuff feels like somebody's got a hold of my leg and I'm trying to drag them along with me. And, and they actually demonstrated that. And, they had this pretty big guy and this woman who was one who was feeling that, being dragged along. And, it's a struggle to drag your old beliefs along with you. Ball and chain, right? Anybody experience a little struggle? Sometimes life is tough with that. So it's time to break free of the tyranny of the obligation. In his book, The Big Leap, author Gay Hendricks talks about what he calls the one problem. And that problem is what he calls the upper limit problem. The upper limit problem. I have a thermostat that's set and I don't go above it. If I go above it, it feels uncomfortable, and so I readjust back down. If I'm too far below it, I'll readjust back up. But I have a thermostat, and this thermostat usually is set in our youth, very youth, before we were able to think for ourselves, before we were able to make decisions for ourselves. And the thermostat says, you should be happy with what you have. You should settle for this. Don't be too big for your britches. Don't expect too much. Yes? You've heard this? Until we break free of that problem and reset our thermostat, we tend to mirror our parents and families and the level of how they did things. And whether it's money, whether it's relationships, whether it's health, whether it's creativity, careers, anything, we tend to mirror that. We tend to be in alignment with the friends that we hang out with. It's been said that take a look at your 5 closest friends, and you all are probably operating at about the same level. And if you want to up level, shift friends. And sometimes that feels hard, but you don't have to drop those friends, but you can expand into new friends. Yes? Expand into something new. All these old beliefs and patterns that keep us stuck at a certain level. And it's far less than our divine potential. Far less than our divine potential. And so the purpose of this teaching is freedom. In case you want to know why you're here today, it's to experience and expand your experience of freedom. Ernest Holmes says we can have as much of that as we can embody. It's all available. How much can you have? As much as you can embody. You can have all of it, but it's what we tend to embody. Ernest Holmes, in the first page of the Science of Mind book, says the divine plan is one of freedom, Bondage is not God ordained. I don't know about you, but I grew up in a religion that told me that, God wants me to suffer. God doesn't, God wants me to, suffer on this planet, on this earth, in this life, so I can have a better life somewhere in the sky, in the great by and by when I die. Yes? One or two of you know what I'm talking about. That's a made-up story. So we take this potential for infinite possibility and constrict it down and say, let's make up some myths about it. Let's make up that we got to do this, we got to suffer and be miserable to please this God. Jesus, by the way, didn't say it. He said, I came that you may have life and have it more abundantly. He didn't say that I came that you may suffer and suffer more abundantly. May have life. And he wasn't talking about somewhere off in the future or up in some big pie in the sky. But some people misunderstood that and took it a different way and recontrolled it, recreated the story. So we can take this freedom that we have and we can create bondage for ourselves. We can create freedom, but we can create bondage. We can do either one. We can create a limited life from a limitless potential based on our thinking, based on our experience, based on our beliefs. And we cannot experience or live that freedom while dragging those old beliefs along with us. Michael Beckwith says, having the courage to come face to face with ourselves is the portal through which we can view the pristine features of our original face. I love that phrase. The pristine features of our original face, your divine nature, which include the qualities of unconditional love, compassion, peace, joy, creativity, and commitment and contentment of being. Don't we all want that? Isn't that what really deeply calls to us? It's already present. But our tendency is to do battle with our old beliefs. You can look at the world today and through any other period of history, and you see that there's usually two solutions that the world mind does to any problem. A, it throws money at it, and B, it makes war. Let's go fight it. How many wars have we been in? There's a war on poverty. How did we do with that? There's a war on drugs. How did we do with that? Right? And all the other wars. We're seeing it playing out, on the world stage right now as it has been for millennia. So we don't need to make war to fix or heal our dysfunctional patterns. Because resistance is futile. I learned that from some teachers out in the Star Trek universe, known as the Borg. Trying to solve our problem at the level of thinking, which is the level that created our problems in the first place, doesn't work. Breathe. So Ernest Holmes says in his book, Can We Talk to God? And by the way, the answer to that title is yes. Spiritual healing is not willing, wishing, beseeching, or repeating a lot of formulas. For some of us, we kind of grew up with that. Let's repeat a lot of formulas. It is the result of a dawning perception of spirit. When the illusion of opposites disappears from our mental perception and we come to realize that we are whole, we shall be made whole. We shall experience the wholeness that we already are. Take a breath and take a moment to recognize you are already whole. We all have our lists of how I'm not whole, right? Yeah, I got this going on. I weigh too much. I weigh too little. I'm too old. I'm too young. I don't have this education. I don't have enough money. Whatever it is. I got this baggage in my relationships. I don't have that one, fortunately, but we all have our ways of how we are not whole, our lists. But it's a lie. It's a bunch of BS. So just battling with our thoughts, using our thoughts, doesn't work. Many of us, even in religious science, have tried this for years, and it raises our thermostats for a little while, but it doesn't really reset them, and it doesn't really create freedom, which is what we really want. There's a Madonna song titled Express Yourself. And it contains the chorus, don't go for second best, put your love to the test. So let's stop settling for just enough to get by in our lives. Breathe. And put our consciousness, our knowing of our true self, not just knowing about, but our knowing, our gut level knowing of our true self, of the infinite individualized as us, put that to the test. Not to make the infinite express itself, because it doesn't need to, it's already doing that, but to open ourselves, to express our original face, our true nature of freedom. That's our purpose. That's why we're here on the planet, is to remember who we are and then share it. It's important to realize that much of what we believe individually and collectively about wealth, and wealth is a divine quality. The universe operates in abundance. Look around. You know, we didn't need 1 billion stars, right? But they're there. You know, look at the planet. Right now at this time of year, look at the leaves that are maybe on your front lawn or your backyard. The universe expresses in abundance, but we believe individually and collectively that wealth is wrong. And so we take the truth of the infinite abundance of the universe and limit it to this little screen called money, and then we make up beliefs about money, and we make up guilt and shame and all this story about money. What we don't really want is money. None of us want more money. We want what money will do for us, or what we believe money will do for us. Money is just a means of energy exchange. What we really want is what we believe it will do for us. What we really want, under that, is the core of all the reasons we want money, is to experience more life, more health, more aliveness, more vitality, more love, more wisdom, more light, more power to create. Some of us get afraid of that word power because we're used to experiencing somebody being power over. And most of what we call power in the world is really control, which really comes out of a sense of powerlessness. And so we compensate for that by trying to control. And we call it power, but it's not real power. From the scientific point of view, power is just simply the ability to get things done, the ability to get something done. And so this power to create. We really want peace. We really want beauty. We really want joy. Yes? Thomas Trord calls these the 7 main aspects of God. Life, love, light, power, peace, beauty, and joy. This is what we really want. We want money to use money to experience more of our divine nature, more of what really already is, more of God. And since we already are God, nudge your neighbor, just say, hey, in case you forgot, you are God. It's simply our original face, it's our original nature that we seek. We've been conditioned to believe that money is not spiritual. Yes? Some of you have heard that? And us being good spiritual people avoid or limit the flow of money, which is really limiting the flow of infinite good, infinite energy into our lives. Like any form of energy, you know, it goes where it's loved. It goes where it's wanted. It's a path of least resistance. The universe expresses as abundance, and it goes where it's wanted. And if I'm sitting here going, oh, I shouldn't have a lot of money because it's not really good, you know, and I want to be a good person, guess what happens? I don't get a lot of money, and it goes elsewhere. And frankly, slightly politically, I don't like the hands of where some of the money lands into, but they're open to it. How would it be if we were open to it with a higher agenda for the planet? Instead of pointing at the 1% and calling them bad, how about if we joined the 1% and shifted the consciousness? Take a breath. Since God is all there is, everywhere and always present, nothing can be not spiritual. The chair you're sitting on is spirit in form. This building is spirit in form. You are spirit in form. We can use this infinite energy in ways that are wise or foolish, life-affirming, life-denying. We can use it But the energy and all of its forms are always spiritual. So let's look at how to break free from this conditioning that we have, which is not by throwing money at it or making war, right? We've done that enough. Or suffering, we've done that enough. Sean Ginwright in the book The Four Pivots says, I'm not sure how many of us really contemplate freedom because so much of our time is focused on solving intractable problems and fighting for justice. We can create the future we wish to see rather than simply eliminating the present conditions we need to change. That's a different mindset. Instead of fighting the system, instead of fighting the problems, I'm going to create the future I want to see instead. We have the ability to do that. Psychologist Fritz Perls said, fear is excitement without breath. Breathe. That's why I say breathe oftentimes in here. When we get scared, we tend to hold our breath. When we encounter a new idea, which oftentimes happens in my talks, if I introduce something, our little mind goes, we hold our breath. The conditioned response is fear of this unknown thing. And so we can do the same action with fear or excitement. They come from the same source. Little small thing. As I was writing this talk, I use a mind mapping program, and I frequently hit save because I've experienced a loss of electricity. We call it a loss of power, but we never lose power. We lose the form of power known as electricity. It's just a form. And I've also experienced the program suddenly shutting down. It seems to have gotten better in the last couple of years, but I've had that. And then all of a sudden I've lost the last half hour or more of work. It's just gone. But I decided this time to breathe as I hit the save button instead of saving out of fear of loss. And it shifted to excitement about saving my work and valuing this work enough to save it. It was a different thing than operating out of fear. It's like, oh, value. This is important enough. Sometimes when I write talks, there's an old conditioned part of me that says, will you like this talk? And more importantly, will you like me if I deliver this talk? And especially if I'm going to stand up here and talk about money in church, will you like me? And so that's the fear. If I breathe into that, I can learn to value what I have to say, what Spirit wants to say through me, and just say, you know what? Some of you might not like it, some of you might, and it's still valuable and important to say. It seems like a small shift, but it creates a great difference in our experience from which we create. And we create from valuing instead of fear. What if every time we handled money, what if every time we handle any form of money, credit cards, whatever, and being in the flow of money going in or out, we took a moment to consciously breathe more fully? How would that be? Would you be willing to play with that? Maybe. I'm not sure. Let's try that again. Would you be willing to breathe a little more as you handle your money throughout your week? And here's one more practice. Smile as you handle the money. Smile and breathe. Now your thinking mind, your rational mind, this condition might say, oh, that's nonsense. That's not going to work. That's not going to do anything. That's why half of you wouldn't even respond to it. It's like, but remember that our best thinking got us here, to the experience we're having right now, good or bad, pleasant or unpleasant. It got us to a place oftentimes of less than our full expression of our infinite divine nature. If we want to have something, a new experience, we have to try something new. We have to do something new. So let's play with something else. It's important to understand that you and I are not just in God, or with God, or connected to God. All of these imply a separation. All of these imply an I that is separate from this infinite presence. Separate from this infinite singularity. The truth is we are one of God. You and I are God being God as whoever you are. Nudge your neighbor and say, "Hi, God," and receive it back. Now, this is not the God of the old silly ideas that some of us grew up with, right? The God to worship up there in the sky, the God to appease, to pray to, that he will do, come down and manipulate things on the planet for our limited idea of what we like or don't like. We're instead aspects of this infinite self-existence that is enjoying itself as life through us. Yes. We're not here. A friend of mine wrote a book in that consciousness called Show God a Good Time. If we're here to be God, show God a good time. We're not here either to work out our salvation. We don't need to be saved from anything. Nor are we here to worship some narcissistic deity in hopes that it will grant us our wishes. We're not here to even learn lessons from some great teacher out there somewhere, even though we do learn as we grow, simply because that's the natural process of growth. God isn't trying to prove anything. It doesn't have anything to prove. It's just God being God. It's just being itself. And we're here because God must be expressed. We are the delight of God. Say that. I am the delight of God. I am the delight of God. We are what God knows itself to be, manifest at the level of what we know ourselves to be. I'll say that again. We are what God, this infinite presence, knows itself to be, manifest at the level that we know ourselves to be. So if I know myself to be a limited person who's scared of whatever, God will show up as that, as me. I can change that. That's the good news, bad news, by the way. Right? Yes, I'm the one who determines how it shows up. I'm the one who has that thermostat and maybe limits it, but I can raise my thermostat permanently. I can shift my consciousness. We're here to expand what we know ourselves to be. As Rumi says, we're not here to look for love, seek for love. We're here to clear out everything that's been in the way of love. All of the infinite good is available to us. All. How much? All of the infinite good is available to us, and we experience only what we can embody. And how do we expand our embodiment? In the Upanishads, it says, when the vision of that which is all there is, vast or small, in other words, micro or macro, dawns within us, the heart is at once freed from the fetters of attachment, egotism, and every form of separateness. When we behold God directly, at once all doubt disappears as the night goes when the morning comes. Without this capital L light, without this light, the outside world will always be full of shadows. But when this light is found, the whole universe glows with radiance. Then the chains of karma, past, present, and future, are shattered, and one enjoys perfect freedom. There's a practice that we've been working with in the Money Mastery class. It's an ancient and widespread practice, and it's a very simple practice. And again, our rational minds will go, oh, that's so simple, that can't possibly work. Will you give it a try? And the practice is looking up. In the stories of Jesus, he is said to have looked up prior to performing his miracles. When I studied Yogananda's Kriya Yoga many, many decades ago, the first lesson we were taught was look up towards your third eye. Stick your tongue on the roof of your mouth and focus your attention on your third eye, which is looking up, lifting up. There's research that shows that people who look down, spend most of their time looking down, are thinking of their problems, focused on their problems, and are depressed. People who are looking straight out are thinking of facts, things as they are, and they're very practical and they're very realistic people, while those who look up focus on possibilities. Everything that has ever been created on this planet is due to somebody who in some way or another looked up instead of looking at things as they are. Because if we look at things as they are, we're stuck there. It's not until we see some new possibility that something shifts and something else happens. We look up not because there's some God up there, but to lift our consciousness above the problems and the facts to the greater possibilities to tap into that mind, which is the mind that is within all of us, the mind that is within each of us. When Paul said, let the mind that was in Christ be in you, that's the mind he's talking about. How can we tap into that mind? And whether you call it the Christ mind, the Buddha mind, the Allah mind, the infinite presence, the label doesn't matter. It's that consciousness that's greater. So let's consider something where you personally experience. We're going to practice this. So consider something where you're personally, presently experiencing a challenge in your life. Notice where your gaze is as you think about it. And now let's start by breathing a little more deeply to move from that fear to excitement. And keeping your eyes open and keeping your head straight, raise your eyes up to about 40, 45 degrees. And just spend a moment looking up and smile. And don't try to make something happen. Don't try to go, oh, well, there's an idea out here. If I just look up, it'll happen. Just let go of that. Just do the practice of looking up and seeing. And look up with your eyes open. What this is doing is simply opening up to greater possibility. And that's our practice for this week. That's your homework for this week. Every morning and every evening, take 5 minutes to look up while breathing and smiling. And just notice what happens. You can take some aspect of your life and consider that, contemplate that, where you want a greater experience of freedom, or you can simply open to infinite possibility and maybe look up and just contemplate freedom itself. You willing to play with that this week? I have found it to be a very powerful practice. I'm going to close with a quote. It's a quote that most of us are familiar with from Marianne Williamson. And it sort of summarizes what I've been talking about today. Our deepest fear is not that we are inadequate. Our deepest fear is that we are powerful beyond measure. Why is that our deepest fear? Is because we won't fit in. Yes? We got a thermostat, and the thermostat's designed to help us to fit in. And if I suddenly realize that I'm powerful beyond measure, I'm not going to fit into both my old paradigm or the paradigm of my family, my friends around me. And the question that's being asked is, will you break free of that? It's our light, not our darkness, that most frightens us. We ask ourselves, who am I to be brilliant, gorgeous, talented, and fabulous? Say that with me. I am beautiful. Gorgeous, brilliant, talented, and fabulous. Actually, who are you not to be? You're a child of God. You're an expression of God. Your playing small does not serve the world. Your playing small does not serve the world. There is nothing enlightened about shrinking so that other people won't feel insecure around you. We're all meant to shine as children do. We were born to make manifest the glory of God that is within us. And it's not just in some of us, it's in all of us, it's in everyone. And as we let our own light shine, we unconsciously give other people permission to do the same. And as we are liberated from our own fear, our presence automatically liberates others because we're all connected. Where any one of us becomes more free, all of us become more free. Will you play with being more free this week, this month, this rest of the lifetime that you're playing with? Yes. We have an affirmation to kind of anchor that in a bit. Say this with me. I expand my experience of freedom in every area of my life. I recognize my life as God's life. And let's say it one more time. I expand my experience. Just a minute. Get your body into that expand. I expand my experience of freedom in every area of my life. I engage my life, I recognize my life as God's life. And so it is. And so we are. Thank you.